The harems of Chinese emperors are legendary. Any son of heaven had several legitimate wives, concubines, but besides them he could have relations with other inhabitants of his palace. The choice of the fair sex was truly enormous. Every 3 years, a casting was held to replenish the female stock. About 300 young divers came to the palace, and not from ordinary, but from noble families, and among them was held a kind of casting. The selection of new, beautiful girls was carried out most carefully. Not only were the girls tested for their conformity to the beauty standards of the time, but also for their intellectual abilities and talents. After all the tests, there were no more than a dozen girls if they were approved by the Imperial and the Empress Dowager, that is, his mother. But those were just concubines. But the Imperials married out not the most beautiful, but those who were recommended to them as wives by their mothers and state councillors. That is, marriages were political. However, here too some choice was given to the emperors, but it was, how to say, not quite open. The emperor didn't see the selected candidates, but only the portraits of the girls. For a good fit, the artist could embellish them well, and the first meeting with the chosen girl was to take place only after the decision to marry her, that is, when it was impossible to refuse. Therefore, disappointments were inevitable, and true love between emperors and their legitimate title wives was quite rare. But it was the sons born to them who later inherited the throne. And imperial wives lived without husbands, but they lived richly. The emperor had to visit his wives periodically, and the rest of the time spent in the company of concubines, usually choosing from the huge number of a few favorites whose name he remembered or endeavored to remember. In the afternoon, a trusted eunuch would come to him with wooden tables on which were stretched the names of his favorites. The emperor would read them carefully and then turn one of them over. The girl whose name plate the emperor has turned over was to come to him that night. During the day, the chosen girl carefully prepared for the meeting with the emperor, put herself in order, did her hair, and in the evening the eunuchs came to her, wrapped her in a carpet, and carried her on their shoulders to the emperor's chambers. Yes, that's right, that was palace etiquette. They wrapped her in a carpet because she was unclothed. It was forbidden to enter the emperor's chamber with clothes on, so what if she hid her weapons there and decided to get rid of the emperor? If the evening was successful, the date was written down in the concubine's personal life, and sometimes it was not written down if the emperor didn't want it. The son of heaven didn't dream of having children with all his women, and therefore he could answer the eunuch's question, "Shall we keep in the negative?" Then the eunuch pressed the woman on her stomach, so that there was no trace of this meeting. Yes, it was a very dubious measure in terms of effectiveness, but it was used. Eunuchs in general were invaluable workers, carried out the most difficult and wild orders of the emperors. Once, Emperor Zhuangzong ordered the chief eunuch Wang Feixing to find the most ugly and physically disabled women in his state to create another separate harem for himself. He was fed up with the beauties, he said. The eunuch fulfilled the task faithfully. In a separate palace, called the Palace of Desirable Monsters, he settled dwarfs, cripples, hungry women. But the main flower, there was a woman with 2 heads. As far as we can understand, it was a Simon's twin. She was a particular favorite of the emperor. But since we are talking about ugly women in the harem of Chinese emperor, it is impossible not to mention here one very interesting story about a 40-year-old woman with a repulsive appearance, who managed to become not just a concubine of the emperor, but his wife. No, we are not talking about the past Effet, but about another ruler named Xuan. This lucky lady was Zhong Liyun. She was a very ugly woman, small in stature, almost bald, with a short thick neck, deep-set eyes, and a curved spine. Until she was 40 years old, she never found a husband. No one wanted to marry someone like her. However, Zhong Liyun wasn't lacking in courage and sharp wit and decided to old age to go for broke and draw the attention of the emperor himself. She knew the place where he was going to hunt and decided to meet him. Standing across his path, the emperor was riding a horse. June started shouting, "Danger! You are in danger!" The emperor was very surprised where this mad woman saw danger, but let her finish. Then Zhong Liyun said very beautifully, allegorically, and without affecting the emperor's dignity, that danger awaited him from the flatterers who surrounded him. People who, by their flattery and deceit, get rich managers from the Imperial, because of whom the state is troubled, who corrupt the king while the common people starve. This speech made a great impression on the Emperor. He sought hard and decided to take this brave woman as his wife. Such is the fairy tale story and luck.